Welcome everyone. It sure is good to see your faces and be able to connect like this. I'm so happy to see you all. We're uh, Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the storm and everything. But first, let's do our introductions and our icebreaker question. So introductions are the name you want to go by, your pronouns, and then the icebreaker question today. I was thinking about Peanuts, and you remember how the cartoon Peanuts, and Linus always had his blanket. And he just couldn't hardly stand to let anybody touch his blanket. It just really made him upset. So I was wondering the icebreaker question is, as a child, did you have something like a blankie that comforted you? And so I'll start. I'm Carol, she, her, and I had a lot of stuffed animals, and I had quite the menagerie. And they would, you know, at night they would all get lined up on my bed, and and so I still have some. Okay, who'd like to go next?
I'll go. I'm Bob, he, him. My grandmother uh, used to sew a lot, and she made all of us one year. I have six cousins, so she made all of us stuffed animals, and I had an alligator that she made me, and so it was a long alligator. So I wore that thing out. So it was a stuffed animal for me too. It was one specific one though.
Nice.
I'll go. I'm Suzette, she, her. And I don't remember having anything like that as a little kid, small, but I remember clothes were really important to me. Like when I was really, really young, like maybe 4. And I would get a piece of clothing that I really liked. And I had this dress that was sparkling silver with a Nehru neck, jacket, silver. And I think I wore that every other day. And it gave me a lot of comfort. It allowed me to say, this is who I am. This is my sparkle.
I can see you in that. That's awesome.
I have pictures.
Mm.
I wore it a lot.
Larry?
I'm Larry. I'm he, me. Um, I don't remember having anything. I have some things now that I've had though. I've got my baby quilt my granny made me still. Um, when Bob talked about the stuffed alligator, I had a stuffed alligator too that my great grandmother made. Probably used the same pattern. Probably Simplicity had that pattern, and everybody's mamas and grandmas made those. So I remember having that. I remember having a little monkey that was made out of socks. Apparently there was a pattern where you buy these socks and then it told you how to cut them and sew them together. And my grandmother made us some, and they had the big red lips, but they also had the big red hiney. And my grandmother didn't think that looked good, so she made them some little pants. But so I've got little memories of stuff, but I don't know that I ever had like a security something that I carried around or anything. No.
Gregor?
Okay, Kreger, he, they, and yeah, I didn't have anything as a child either that, you know, no, I didn't develop anything like that. I have plenty of things like that now, but not when I was a kid. I think my dad just kind of was against anything like that. It was very hard in that way. Like boys aren't going to cling to a teddy bear or something like that. That's ridiculous. So I didn't do that.
Mm. Okay. Well, Houston, as everyone knows, went through a big storm, and our church wasn't affected in such a way that there could be no in-person services on Sunday, and the power wasn't even restored until Tuesday at the church. And I guess there's still some people trying to get their power back and things. And the cleanup of debris, I understand, is still not complete by any means. Now, we may not all be in the Houston area and therefore may not have been as directly affected by this storm, but we've all been through storms, both literally and figuratively. So uh I'd kind of like to start with, just often in big storms or calamities, I think back on like 9/11, we see people coming together in new ways, or surprising people stepping up to the plate in ways we may not have thought of. Some of you have been those people. I think in this storm, I know all the work that Suzette and the teams have did to create a wonderful online service for us, and to look forward to what's coming in the future. So, what are some things that you've noticed, particularly in this storm, that people have done that that you think were really awesome?
Well, I noticed the difference between now and Harvey, say, that people were more neighborly this time. And I think it might have been the time period, because Harvey, we were out of electricity for weeks. So this was several days, but I noticed everyone being more neighborly. People were stopping at four ways at the intersections without the power on the lights. They were stopping four-way stops and letting everybody go. Uh, I didn't get angry at anyone, so I was pretty calm during this whole thing and taking it in stride. So that was good. So I just thought I felt people coming more together, or maybe that was the way I saw it this time, as opposed to Harvey. During Harvey, my house flooded, so this was kind of real easy. Nothing flooded or anything. If it would have been, it's an apartment. So that was what I noticed, was everyone being more neighborly as we're dealing, with these harsh issues here.
Just from being part of the executive team, and and also a member myself, a congregational member, I have seen more organization towards and wanting to be better prepared next time. So every time this happens, we feel like something fell on the ground and we missed it, or we need to have a way of communicating with people. What if we didn't have our phones? What can we do to mitigate certain things when we have a disaster like this? So, we felt we felt like the carpet had been pulled out from under us when we had a church and we had people, but we had no power and no internet. And so we couldn't broadcast a church service. So we had to figure out how to do that real fast. So it's a lot of, planning for the what ifs, what if this happens? What happens next? And I know personally, Chrissy and I are like, we've been talking about getting a generator, a whole house generator, and they're not cheap. And I think we're just going to do it because we take care of elderly parents and family in our little compound here. And I just, I don't want to have to face that, without being able to take care of them. So my worry is, how am I going to take care of my family? That kind of thing. And my church family.
Many people lost power, and that seems to be the one of the biggest issues. We're in the mobilizer this week. Reverend Denise asks, "Where does your power come from?" Did y'all read that? She says the answer may not be as simple as it seems. Last week taught us that we have come to rely more and more on our electric company to keep the power running, and everything changes when we're without electricity. So she said we were reminded of that. Let us also be reminded of a greater source of power in our lives, one that we can rely on to help us be resilient during times of much interruption and loss. So, what does that look like for you? Where do you find God in situations like this? Where do you find your power?
Well, I would say that Paul is in College Station right now on a conference, and our next door neighbor from Blanton Street, where we used to live in Houston, was on Instagram today, just a few hours ago, saying they still don't have power. And just seeing that text message, my blood pressure just went. I didn't even know how high it was because I was afraid to check it, because that's a week now without power. And I work at home. I have no office to go to. I absolutely need electricity to survive. That's to pull in a paycheck. So, so that question is difficult for me. Unless Jesus provides electricity, I can't help Jesus with all the needs of his people. So that's a hard question for me to answer. But I told Paul, I said, now, if we were still living next door to Lena, that I would be blowing a gasket by now. And he's like, yes, I know. He's like, what's your pressure? I'm like, I'm not checking it.
I think a lot of people really have to go deep inside of themselves and find the grace that they've been maybe reserving for a time such as this, because when things don't go the way that we expect them to go, and when people don't behave the way we expect them to behave, we feel like we've lost our power, or we feel like we lose power. So I think that finding that grace from God and allowing us to show grace to others is a really powerful thing for me. So, so finding ways to give grace is really important to me, even if it's part of something else. It has to be there always, always.
I mean, the reality of suffering really is the story of the Bible from Genesis to everything, And one thing I did write down that I wanted to say, nothing is more important than to learn how to maintain a life of purpose in the midst of painful adversity, which that goes with many different storms that I've faced throughout my life. So it's, you just have to have a purpose after suffering, I think. So really.
I
That's a
think
really good
that's
point.
really profound.
Yeah.
That's good. And I think that goes along with just what is the deeper call that comes with a storm or with a crisis, with a tragedy? What are we being called to? What am I being invited to? How do we show up for each other? What am I learning through this? Sometimes it's hard to remember that, but yeah, just having the stronger your foundation is and your ideas of your values and your purpose, that I don't know, what do you think? Maybe sometimes tragedy seems to remind us of those values and those purpose, like in the song "Live Like You Were Dying." You know, it just reminds you what you want the most, makes kind of live each day to its fullest.
You really don't, Jesus is all you need until Jesus is all you have. So,
My goodness, you're full of profound teachings today. That's a good one. I'm gonna remember that.
I'm writing it down.
Yeah, yeah, me too.
Well, two prior storms, what was Allison wasn't even a hurricane, it was a tropical storm. And my car was flooded in that one. And then during Hurricane Ike, my apartment where I worked at home was also without power for 10 whole days. And I had good support from coworkers. I remember Jim Slawinski, Hurricane Ike, and my car. I came out to go to work that Saturday morning, and I opened up my car door, and water literally came rushing out, and so it was trashed, you know. And I remember one of my coworkers. I was just in a panic, and he's like, "Okay, stop." He's like, "You have got to put one foot in front of the other," and that was one of the most beautiful things I ever heard. You know, okay, what's my next small action step? What's the next thing that I can do in the next 5 minutes or 10 minutes that pushes me forward? You know, so that was very helpful. And I would say it's like spiritual too, because you can't, you know, you're okay, so there's no power. Life doesn't stop just because there isn't electricity. It feels like it stops, but you know, it doesn't stop just because there's no power, as you all know. And so you got to figure out how to put one foot in front of the other. And what I like to write down on my notepad every single morning when I wake up, it's from a book study that we did on Wednesday night from, I think it was 2021. I can't remember the name of the book, but there was something in that book about how to begin your day. And so every day on my notepad, I write down, begin with love. And so I look at that for a few minutes, well, probably a few seconds. Begin with love. What does it look like right now if I'm going to begin my day with love? And if I put myself in that mindset right from the get-go, the worries and the, you know, it takes a little bit of the edge off the, you know, the to-do list and the potential anxieties and whatnot. Begin with love. Begin every day with love and see where the day takes you. So that comes in handy too during a crisis.
Yeah, there's that foundation. There's that foundation that you're just keeping in mind your values and your purpose. Yeah.
Like last week, I was in New Mexico visiting my mother-in-law, who's in hospice. She's like 65, 70 pounds. She's the skinniest human being I've ever seen that's still alive. And they can't even do blood pressure on her arm. They have to take it on her wrist. And so I was just waking up over there and begin with love, because I'm out here to see her because I love her, you know, and it's how you frame the whole thought process, the whole, you know. So yeah, while not a storm, it's a storm in terms of emotional and yeah, in terms of an emotional storm, that's what it was last week. but I'm absolutely grateful that I went. And before I left, I said, I was thinking in my head, what does this woman mean to me? I've known her for like 13 years that Paul and I have been together. And when I was saying goodbye, I just said, thank you for being my friend. Thank you for being my friend, Miss Julie. I really appreciate it. She's given me a lot of good advice over the years, and I could really just boil it down to what she meant to me was she was my friend.
That's a beautiful thing to say, I think, and I think sometimes it's hard to know what to say when you're trying to talk to someone who's going through something really rough. And I think, and we tend to just, say platitudes. I was given the name of a book that I started going through today. It's called Everything Happens for a Reason and Other Lies I've Loved.
Yes. Yeah, I think we did that one.
That's yeah, I've been thinking about that all day, and just what's really uh, what are we really trying to say with that? I think what another truth that I think was told to me is that there is always treasure in trauma. And I had to really think about that. And I think that can be said like a platitude too, try to find the silver lining or whatever. And I don't think that's what's meant by that. But I think there can be treasure, but it's hard to get to it. You really can't get there without processing everything you've been through. And not everyone has a safe space, a safe container to process big things. And if we don't have that, then we don't process and we don't find the treasure. And and I wonder how we can be there for each other to make sure that each other has that kind of safe container.
Well, we were doing the prayer meeting with whoever had power. Sandy and Shirley had power in Costa Rica, so whoever could get on has been getting on. And somehow people figure out how to get their prayers in, so we kept that going.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Well, it's probably no surprise that I'm completely backwards, but this is another area where it's like, the Sesame Street song, one of these things is not like the other, that's been my whole life. But when I don't respond like how I hear everybody else respond when things are going bad, or I remember as a kid hearing people talk about, when the old people would be giving their testimonies at church about how God was faithful, and when things got bad, they prayed and they got through it. It's like, no, when things are going bad for me, I shut down. I do. I shut down. Um, I'm trying to attach it to the fight or flight syndrome, where you either fight or you fly. There, I've had to fight for just to be pretended to be valued for so long that I have no fight left. And so when the going gets tough, I get going. I'm not going to hang around. I'm not going to argue. I'm not going to bitch and moan. I'm just not interested. So I withdraw. I shared that with the Wednesday group a couple of years ago about it's like, hey, if you guys ever see me just disappear, that's a clue I'm not okay. But I'm not gonna whine and I'm not gonna cry and I'm really not gonna talk to anyone. I'm just gonna withdraw. So
So if we saw that and we're like, okay, Larry's not okay, he has disappeared, then what would help you in those moments? Somebody
well,
reaching out and saying, hey, what's going on with you?
well, that does happen, but when people call, I usually lie and tell them, "Oh, I'm fine," or da da da, or just, or give them some other um, secondary excuse.
Latitude.
You know that you know, tell them something that's true, but would also kind of create the excuse. But you know, it's like I'm a people person. I need people in my life and I need them around all the time. So when I'm isolated, I don't do well, which is ironic because at the times when I'm not doing well, I isolate. So it's like this big old circle. So I don't
But if
That's
somebody
really
did
good
call
thing to
you,
know.
would it, I mean, even if you lie to them, does it still make you feel good that somebody called?
oh yeah, yeah. I love when people call or um um Joe and Kenny. Kenny doesn't come to our church anymore, but some of y'all know Kenny. Uh, uh, Kenny just drops by. Like he dropped by yesterday and brought me 3 pieces of chocolate pie because he knew I liked chocolate pie, but he didn't know which kind I would like. So he went into House of Pies and says, I want a piece of chocolate pie. I don't know what, so just give me different ones. So Joe called to worry called to check on me because he knew that I had a real bad tremor day this week. But you know, those days come and they go, and then I'll have another one in about a year. But he was worried that I still wasn't okay. Oh no, that was yesterday. I'm fine now. But I always enjoy that. You know, I like people to contact me, and you would think that would transfer, that I would remember to do that with other people, but I don't. I should, but sometimes when I know someone's having a hard time, I don't call them because in my mind I thought, oh, they just want to be left alone, because I would want to be left alone, but I know I don't really want to be left alone, but then I don't know what to say. So I guess I'm a bad friend too. Put that on my list. That for my funeral. He was a bad friend.
I doubt that anybody would say that.
Oh yeah, there are some that would.
He was an honest friend, an honest friend.
Well, that is true.
So my sister was texting me a while ago, and she said, I wanted to let you know that I emailed cousin Ann Satanica on April 19th to let her know about Jim and got no response. I don't have a phone number except to their old house in Cadott, which is in Wisconsin. Very unlike her not to respond. And I'm like, okay, so you wrote someone an email on April 19th and there's been no reply and you don't know how to get a hold of them. And I felt, you know, my reaction, Larry, I wanted to write my sister back and say, stop. I am not accepting another piece of negative bad news for I don't even know how long. I can't hear anything else that even remotely sounds like, oh, Anne could be dead in her apartment for all we know because she's not answering her email. You know, I can't deal with this. So don't even tell me, you know. And unfortunately, I'm not seeing my therapist again until June 3rd, June 4th. So, that was when I hear Larry being honest, that's me being honest about, just something that just happened.
Well, so I was just gonna say that as somebody who's just been through big tragedy in your family. What were things that people did or said for you that you found helpful?
Well, first, okay, so I was at Resurrection in person. So, just a couple of days after my brother passed away, and just the physical and emotional outpouring of love was truly helpful. And then the next week I was back in Austin and then got the same thing at Uprising. And so then I have the prayer group and, so I have all that. And I've been telling people, the worst of it is like when I'm sitting here alone, working at home or something, working at home alone and Paul's gone and I'm in between conference calls or something. And then suddenly, there's that moment of stillness. And then I get to choose in that moment of stillness. Do I want to try to find pull Jesus into the presence of spirit here? Or do I want to go down my anxiety trail? It's my choice. And unfortunately, I've been choosing the anxiety trail, more often than I would like to admit to, but Larry's here, so I gotta tell the truth.
Sometimes, Craig, I think we both need to be in the same town. I'm remembering like 20 years ago sitting on a bar stool at George, and we didn't share anything important, but it was just, hey, I know you.
Community.
Well, I may not have been at Resurrection in person for a very long time, but I sure am grateful for the online community and just like you said, just the community of friends and people that were making all these connections. I think that's just beautiful, and having that whenever anything goes wrong, I think having that just network, that community is so important. Be nice if we could all hug.
The top thing, Carol, is just absolutely without a doubt knowing that I am loved. And people have various ways of communicating that or showing that through their actions or whatever. But just having that knowing, when I'm having my moments, I can always go back to I am loved. And I don't know, I mean, in terms of, of a storm disaster, this is really physical. My thing was kind of emotional. So the storm disaster, I don't know how important, people need to hear how much they're loved after a storm. But, hey, I'm glad you made it. I really love you. I guess you can do that. But, okay. Are you going to help replace my couch or what?
I think, yeah, I think knowing that you're loved is important at any time, but particularly in any kind of a tragedy or challenge. Yeah.
Well, my church family is the family that reached out to me. None of my relatives, my blood relatives, reached out. They liked it on Facebook and everything, but it was my church family that that really got me through it.
One of the
I thought
things that a therapist told me regarding change and problems. She actually she learned this from a friend who repeated this over and over to herself as she was going through labor with a stillborn baby. And it's doors opening, doors closing. I am safe. It is only change. Doors opening, doors closing. I am safe. It is only change.
And it's a what?
It is only change. change.
Change. Interesting.
That sounds a little empty to me. I'm sorry. I I feel like it's it's like the door opening and closing thing in a visual and mental visual, and you know, with that kind of a loss, I can't. I would think that it would be a uh, much more difficult for me to say that out loud and be okay. You know, I think it might have, but I will tell you one thing. When I was going through some of the hardest things in my life, I would say to myself, it's just for right now, it's not forever. So I guess I could say that's a similar way to put it. But I said that a lot to myself, because when I thought, I cannot go through this. I'm not going to live through this. And I just would tell myself, it's just for today. It's not forever, you know, and it sustained me. So
That's a great point, Suzette. And when I'm having that kind of inner head talk, I'm like, I'll tell myself, can't you just come back to the present moment? Can't you just be here right now? Like, what specifically is wrong right now in this moment? And if I start thinking about it, well, okay, I'm projecting what's wrong into the future, which hasn't even happened yet, And
anxiety is the worst human. I don't know if you can call it an emotion, because it's really not an emotion, it's a reaction. Because I had a therapist tell me there's three ways you can deal with things, you know, with hurt, or you know, with something that we can't deal with, and it's either to be mad, sad, or bad. So I also repeat that to myself a lot, because in that time frame, I was sad and I was mad. So I was depressed and I was full of anxiety. So she gave me the ability to quantify something I couldn't put my finger on, which was anxiety, and gave me a reason for it, because I thought, I'm not in control. This has control over me. You know, I don't know how to control this, you know, and you know, those little things that we hang on to, the little threads that we find that we hold on to and say, okay, this is gonna make a difference. So by that therapist telling me also that what you're feeling is absolutely normal, I mean, it was like, I'm good. You know, to have somebody validate those 3 things for me, or 4 things, was a life changer. So I think it's really important that we open ourselves up to looking for resources when we're feeling like we don't have even ourselves as a resource, because I know that I could call Carol or Craig or Larry or Bob and say, hey, I'm not okay, and I need help, and you guys would do whatever it took to help me. And I don't feel that way about a lot of people, but I know these people in my life that I can trust. So I think it's really important to surround yourself with that safety net of people that you do trust, and give yourself, you know, that's the power. That's the thing that you put around you that insulates you from the power that either is out of control or not enough, and eventually, you know, it goes the right way. But I'm more grateful than you guys know for you in my life. So I have to say that.
Sometimes I have to remember that, God, I may be going through the suffering to come out the other end, to be a different Bob. Like they talk about the forging of gold in the Bible, and I guess you could refer to it more as a kiln type of thing, or a furnace. But they
heat the gold up, it will never be destroyed, but it burns off the impurities. So I think sometimes we're kind of like that. We need the impurities burned off, so we kind of need to get back to just the basics.
Yeah, they call it that the refiner's fire. And someone actually, there is a song called the Refiner's Fire that's pretty powerful if you can just close your eyes and melt into it. Oh, melt. Oh. that was a happy accident.
Well, you know, one of the things I love about this online community that I've been a part of now for 4 years since COVID, we started doing online prayer in March. I think the church closed down in March 15th of 2020, and we started doing online prayer like by March 20th. And one of the things I've noticed about the online community is that we can have a level of intimacy. Okay, let me say I can have a level of intimacy in this particular venue and setting that I just haven't had anywhere else, even in those in-person Wednesday night classes and in those in-person things that I used to attend in the physical space at Resurrection. And I'm not sure what it is about like just seeing people on TV that makes me feel like I can really truly be vulnerable and open and be honest. And where I guess whenever I'm in person, I've got just that little bit of, you know, shields up, Captain, got to have that, just that little bit of a wall there.
What if they see you sweat? You know, that kind of thing.
Y'all can't slap me. You can't physically slap me. You can't.
We wouldn't slap you.
So yeah, I found it's, you know, like brunch buddies and some of the Wednesday book classes that we have in this venue, a GodTalk. You know, we get all up in it, you know, and this really is like secondary therapy to me because, you know, of course you have your professional therapist and that's fine and good, but it's nice being able to talk to people you know well.
Oh, that makes me, that's just, I totally agree. And I am so happy to hear you say that. Suzette is too.
I just can't believe this room isn't packed with 35 or 40 people since we have 400 in the community, but
I'm gonna start messaging people and having a conversation with them, like people I don't know, because I've noticed that we have some people that I've never seen before, and they've asked to join it. And you know, there's a new girl, I don't know her name, I can't think of it right offhand, but I wanted to private message her or, you know, message her and ask her questions about herself and say, you know, how did you find us? What's happening in your life that, you know, that we can offer you? And, you know, I didn't do it and I feel bad, you know, because every single person that comes into that group is looking for something. Everybody is. It's not, I don't believe it's a random thing. I think they're coming in there because they're looking for something, connection, a place where they can be authentic, God. There's just, why did you come here? I want to know. I want to know why.
That's
What can we do
those are great
to give that to you?
Those are great insights, but that doesn't mean that you have to do all of that by yourself, and feeling guilty about that is not helpful, Suzette.
I don't feel guilty. I don't necessarily feel guilty. I just wish I really wish I could, you know, be more of a conduit. And I do pop in. I try every day to pop in and say something stupid. Or, you know, take a picture with my dog, or, you know, I don't plan a lot of it. I just go in and see what's going on, and if no one's saying anything, then maybe, you know, say something. But I've written some stuff down tonight about what we talked about tonight, and I'm going to throw that out there in conversation and you know, tie it to the sermon, you know,
Are
and
you doing that? Are
maybe
you
put a
talking
link.
about like the Facebook feeds or
The group,
Instagram?
yeah, the
Oh,
Facebook online church community, the
okay.
400 people that you're in, that you help
Right.
so much with, because you're in there every day and I see you welcoming people, and I mean that matters to me a lot, and I never even asked you to do it, you just do it, and
Well, was it this
that
lady?
matters a lot.
Does that
Yes,
Mimi?
that's her. I don't know her name, but that's her.
Me?
The Andrea Janice, and she just wrote and she
Andrea.
said, "Hi, I wanted to just introduce myself."
Yeah.
Right.
Yes,
That's
yes. I remember seeing that post.
The
Yes.
thing
but I
I,
looked at her.
oh yeah, she goes, "Hi, I just wanted to introduce myself and share a photo that I took." And so I wanted to write back, well, why don't you come to God Talk on Thursday? But then I don't know how to tell her how to get here.
Well, on the online church, you don't have to search very far to get to the registration link. And it's also in the mobilizer.
But if you can find the mobilizer.
Well,
It came yesterday, every Wednesday.
I know. I get a lot of emails, so I try to search, and my search is I can put in their mobilizer and it never shows up. So then I have to guess which person's sending it out. You know, if
It's
it's by
always coming
Denise
from
or Raymond,
info. It comes from
what?
info at Resurrection. It comes from
Info at Resurrection.
Mhm.
That helps.
Mhm.
Well, I think an end stage God Talk would be, like we have so much interest in this thing. Like we've got 100 people coming that we have to break off into like little groups of 20 each. Because
Or
we
have
had
rooms. What do you call them?
Yeah,
breakout
rooms.
rooms.
Yeah,
Breakout rooms. That
breakout
would be
rooms.
amazing.
that would, but this is it's also awesome to have just the intimacy of a small group, and I think everybody, right? I fully agree with trying to get more people here, but for now, I think I'm so happy that this group is here now, and that we're small enough that we do have time to hear from everyone, and just it feels like a big hug to each person, to and from.
Yeah, I've thought about that, Carol, because, if there were 25 people in here right now, it would be very difficult. In 1 hour, it would be very difficult. We'd almost have to have like, the AA timer lady. Okay, you got 3 minutes. And then like the egg timer goes off and like,
A little sand thing, little sand glass. Yeah. Time's up.
Share for 3 minutes. I've seen that before too. Because you have so many people at the meeting, right?
She says you'll be suffering for the next meeting too, so you can continue then.
Your little timer goes off, and mute you, and all of a sudden your conversation stops. Oh, that does not sound nice. Oh, I'm just so glad you're all here. This is beautiful. And that's just one of the best things we can do for each other, I think, is just connect like that. And I'm just, the whole online community just feels very welcoming and connected, and it feels not just, it seems like it enhances my uh my connection with God, I guess you'd say. It um just just knowing that we're all connected in such a beautiful way makes me feel less alone, even when we're not together like this. It just feels like God is it just feels like there's all this network. Um, Larry,
And
I'm
you can
using,
save it
I'm using
for
the up,
Thursday.
the up. I know you challenged the idea of God as up
Oh,
in our devotional posts, but um, but
yeah.
yeah, I'm at a loss for words, but I'm just trying to say how grateful I am about the connections.
Well, it really
Oh,
is. There have been studies before on prayer. And so, like, there are times when our group, we pray for people that we don't know. We don't know them personally. And they may not know. Well, I guess they are supposed to know if we're praying for them. But there have been studies that show, that connection, you don't have to be in the same room with a person in order for the power of prayer to be viable. I think it's more along the lines of, the universe is an energy grid. When you've got 20 people, or not 20, how many do we have, Bob? 12? Some days we have 12, some days we have 5. When more than 2 are gathered in Spirit's name, and you got that vibe and that energy going out into the universe, somehow that translates. And it translates for us right now on this screen, even though we're not physically in the same room together. It works, and I don't know why it does, but I'm grateful for this technology.
Well, there's people that like I didn't know Monique, and I've known her. I mean, I've known of her. Christy's been in choir for 13 years. She's been played the piano for the gospel ensemble. I never had a conversation with Monique, and she
Yeah.
came on here, and I feel like I know her. I feel like a kindred spirit. I feel like that's somebody I want to know more. So it does matter. It really matters that we connect.
Everybody has such a beautiful story if we just take the time to listen.
Mhm.
Everybody has a beautiful story.
True.
I think maybe
We
that's
can
one
learn
of the
so
things
much
that
from each other, which I do,
yes.
even at this old age.
Another thing to just repeat in the bad times is I'm not alone. I'm not alone. And that's what we just need to keep reminding each other when times are tough, particularly, and when they're not. You're not alone.
Somebody gave this to me. This will be my last comment, but somebody that used to be a pastor at our church gave this to me when I was going through it. I know I go through it. I've gone through it a few times, but I was going through it, and that this sits on the corner of my desk. I have carried it with me everywhere I go, and it just says, shh, take away that worry, take away whatever it is that's pressing you to the ground, and know that I'm God. And instead of just saying know that I'm God, but know that I'm here. I'm here.
Yes.
I
It
have
takes
that too. As I recall, I got one of those from Asa Bear Orion.
That's who I got it from.
Yeah.
They had more than one friend.
Yeah. You know what? Have you seen that one though, Suzette, where it says, be still and know that I am God. And then it says, be still and know that I am. And then it says, be still and know. And then it says, be still. And that's always my opportunity is just, can you just shut up and be still for just
One more, then you can just go to B.
And
Yeah.
just be.
and then be.
That's kind of what I was without electricity. You're just kind of being because you don't have any outside stimuli, and the dogs are kind of just being also. So
Yeah.
at the base of it, that's it. Is being.
That's why we love our pets so much, because our pets are beloved creatures, no matter what, kitties, doggies, fish, alligators, whatever. They're always in the present moment. They're always
Yeah.
here right now. And they're always bringing us back to the present moment.
Mhm.
Who would like to end us in prayer?
I'll take us home.
Okay.
All right. Holy Spirit, Holy God, Holy Creator, we close another session of God Talk in gratitude. We're just grateful that we have this opportunity. At this point, it's a small community, but it's a loving community. It's a safe community. It's an accepting community. We're just so grateful for everyone who has shared their thoughts and their testimonies and their stories tonight. And we just ask that the love that we have for one another just surrounds us and gets us through the next minute, the next hour, the next day, the next week. All remembering at the core of it, it's just we need to breathe into your breath, and that you're breathing us 24/7, whether we're aware of it or not. You're always with us. And so let us take that into the rest of our evening and the rest of our week, and bring us back again next Thursday. We're so grateful in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 Thank you.
Thank you, Craig.